The isolation is starting to wear thin here.
Commissioner Clark, another minute or two here. Okay, I'm sure Commissioner Clark will be joining us in a moment, but for now, we will call this meeting of the Meridian Township Planning Commission, the July 27th, 2020 meeting, to order at 7:00 p.m. This meeting is being held electronically via Zoom in accordance with the governor's executive order. First up on our agenda is public remarks. There are 3 opportunities for public remarks this evening, the first one being right now, the second one being at our public hearing, and then the third one being just before the conclusion of the meeting. I'll remind everyone that you are able to join in if you are on the Zoom call by raising your hand, or you can give us a phone call at 517-349-1232. And Stephen from the township will put you through to us. I'll also mention that while the first and last public remarks sections can be on any topic, the public hearing public remarks section will be limited to just that topic. You have 3 minutes, and if you would, at the beginning of your time, please state your name and address for the record. So with that, we will open the floor for public remarks.
We have no telephone calls at this time, Chair Hendrickson.
Thank you. I see a couple of folks, one looks like in the Zoom meeting as an attendee, but no hands at this moment. So we will go ahead and move on. Next on the agenda is the approval of the agenda. We'll need a motion to approve the agenda. Moved by Commissioner Cordell. Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner McConnell. Any discussions on the agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor of the agenda say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Sorry, was that a late aye to yes to approval of the agenda? Okay, thank you. All right, next on the agenda then is approval of minutes. We have one set of minutes from July 13th, 2020. We'll need a motion to approve the minutes. Moved by Commissioner Richards. Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Primo. Any discussion on these minutes?
I had one very minor typo.
Okay.
In item 7B, unfinished business, special use permit, Green Peak Innovations. The second sentence in the introductory paragraph should read: the Planning Commission decision is only advisory to the Township Board.
Okay, so it's missing a 2, it looks like.
It could hardly be smaller.
All right. Any other changes or additions? All right, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Next up is communications. We did have 2 communications in our packet that Peter passed along. I think one or both of them was given to us via email before our last meeting. So this is our obligation to print those in our packets here. And we'll move on to item 6A, public hearings. Special use permit number 20051-1732 Hamilton Road LLC. Establish a motor vehicle repair shop at 1732 Hamilton Road. We will open the public hearing at 7:04, and we will turn things over, as we always do, to Principal Planner Menser.
Unmute.
Yep, I'm with the mute thing. I was just finishing typing something. I see we have a late hand for public comments, but we're going to go ahead and get rolling with the meeting. I don't know if this is our applicant or not, but we'll find out. So, okay, give me a second. I'm going to share my screen.
And we can see your screen, Peter.
Good, thanks for the confirmation. It's definitely weird not being able to see anybody. Just talking to the air in my room here. So, okay, let's walk through this real briefly. Everybody, I think, knows me. My name is Peter Menser. I'm the principal planner here at the township. Tonight's public hearing for special use permit 20051. The name of the applicant is 1732 Hamilton Road LLC. So this is for the establishment of an auto repair shop, and it's an existing building at 1732 Hamilton Road. So tonight's meeting, everything I'm going over is on the meetings tab right now on the homepage. And there's a meeting packet in there. You'll find all the application materials for this request, along with all other requests that are being considered by the township right now. Tonight's public hearing, the general format is a staff summary, which is what I'll be doing right now. Presentation from the applicant, we will go to them when I finish. Then public comment, just for this topic only, 3 minutes per person maximum time limit. Then the Planning Commission will discuss the request. They will likely have questions for the applicant and for me, and they will talk amongst themselves. General public comment will happen again at the end of our meeting tonight. If anyone's out there has a comment on something that was at a previous meeting or something altogether different than what's being discussed tonight. So the general process for special use permits, for those of you that aren't familiar with this process, applications filed with the department, you'll find this request is a little bit different, and I'll get to that in a minute, but we follow state law in terms of publishing notices. So we send notices to everyone within 300 feet of the subject property, minimum 15 days before the hearing. We also put a notice in the newspaper and post a sign on the site. So the public hearing is tonight. Likely the Planning Commission will make a decision on this request at its next meeting on Monday, August 10. As far as I know now, I'm fully expecting we'll be on Zoom again in August. And in this instance, the Planning Commission is the final decision maker on this special use permit. Some special use permits go on to the Township Board for further discussion and consideration, but this is one that stops with the Planning Commission. So the general location of the site's on the north side of Hamilton Road, west of Central Park and Dobie. It's next to what used to be the Portnoy and 2 dentist office, and just west of the shopping center that has like the T&D Coney in it, and just to the east of that is the Quality Dairy. Overall project description, the applicant would like to establish a motor vehicle repair service. Project would include regular vehicle maintenance and repair, 4 or 5 customers per day, and they'll have parts deliveries once or twice a day. This is a little bit different from what the Planning Commission typically sees. Usually our process would go that an applicant would apply to the township, they would go through this process and then open the repair shop if they're approved for the special use permit. In this case, and I think innocently, the applicant opened up shop, they leased the space and opened their business, and found out later, township staff identified that it was happening, and we contacted the property owner and the applicant, which in this case are 2 different entities. And I, shared with them that this is a request, this is a special use permit, to operate here. So, and all of that happened kind of right when it happened earlier in this year. We tried to get them scheduled for a public hearing, but then COVID hit, and obviously everything kind of changed. So, where we're at now is they have been in operation as much as they could, while things were shut down. And this consideration, really the consideration is whether or not Planning Commission is going to approve the special use permit. So the end result of this, if the Planning Commission chose to go this route, would be that the business, if denied, would have to close or find a different location. And that's not to put further pressure on the Planning Commission. I know this is not an ideal scenario to be faced with that kind of decision about a business opening or closing, but keep in mind they did open without any approvals. But we'll go through the request. I think the township would have taken stronger action if it was going to be a big issue, but I think we'll find this property is fairly well suited for this kind of use, which of course I'm not making that call. This is for the Planning Commission to consider. So that's kind of how the origin story on this place. Our 2017 master plan designates the property, it's in the red dashed line here on the map, in the commercial category in our future land use map. Zoning, the zoning is C2, so it's appropriately zoned for this use. It is a use that's allowed by special use permit in this district. So the plan for the applicant would just be to use existing entrances to the property. In this case, based on the traffic expected, traffic assessment and a study, they're not required in this case. They don't meet that threshold. The applicant would be limited to existing parking on the site and use of the building pretty much as is, which I'll touch on further in a second, because no expansion of the building is proposed, and actually the building itself is non-conforming. There was a variance issued in the past to do an addition, but as a non-conforming structure, which I don't want to place any kind of judgment on it, it's been around for a long time, but they just wouldn't be able to expand the footprint of the building without approval of a variance from our zoning board of appeals. Review criteria for this request. There's 1 through 9 on the special use permit application, and that's from section 86.126 of our township zoning ordinance. The applicant has provided quite a bit of materials for you to consider, and there are responses to the special use permit criteria within. And then the ordinance does have specific standards for gasoline and automobile service stations. I also want to note, I spelled stations wrong, sorry about that. But it is lumped in with the category of also oil change establishments. So there is much more there. I think there's about 10 items that our ordinance identifies, but there's only a few of them that really relevant. So what you're seeing in our staff memo are a handful that were just taken out that were only the relevant ones. So with this request, I kind of liken this request to the McCreary's special use permit for the car detailing service that we saw a couple weeks ago. It's a new use in an existing building. It is properly zoned. There's a lot of criteria. If you take a look at what our ordinance requires in terms of some of these conditions, this site might not be able to meet those. But in this case, I mean, like I said, it's in an existing building. So a lot of those aren't going to really be relevant in this case. What you see in the staff memo are a couple, if you do consider approval of this request, some conditions that might be added. So all activities taking place only in the building. There is a residence to the north. And then any exterior doors remain closed while vehicles are, this says being detailed, but obviously I copied this from the McCreary special use permit. But all the exterior doors remain closed while they're working on vehicles. No outdoor storage of wrecked or dismantled vehicles, and then no outdoor display of items for sale. In our staff memo, we say that we have a reference to these pump islands. That's because the ordinance talks about gasoline stations. So I would remove that reference to pump islands, but just have the general no outdoor displays of items for sale. What's next? Further discussion of potential action at the Planning Commission's next meeting on August 10. Between now and then, no additional meetings would be sent out, or excuse me, no additional notices or letters will be sent out. Staff will prepare a resolution for consideration based on the Planning Commission's discussion of the request following this presentation. And as always, I'll be available tonight. I thought that the applicant was informed of the meeting. I'm not sure if they're on, but once I leave my screen, I'll be able to tell you a little better. So.
Thank you very much, Peter.
Yeah, let me take a look at them.
Yeah, at this point would be the opportunity for the applicant to speak on behalf of the application. So while Peter does that, we will wait.
Sorry, just give me a second. I'm kind of going through this. I'm gonna take a shot at this McCarthy. I don't remember the person's name, but it might be. We have a Marilyn McCarthy on the line. Marilyn, you're not the rep for this project, right?
No, but Robert McCarthy, her husband, is, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay, Robert McCarthy, I'm sorry, I'm the attorney.
Oh, thank you. That's helpful. Okay, go ahead, Robert.
I'm Robert McCarthy, and I'm the attorney for 1732 Hamilton Road LLC. Jonathan Brown, who is the owner of that company, is here with me. And the synopsis of my position is that my client has no problems with the 4 criteria or conditions that might be imposed if the if approval is given in accordance with the Planning Commission's conditions on page 6 of their memo. Although there were a few things in that, there are no gasoline islands. This is not a gas station, and so there are no islands that need to be removed in some fashion, and they have no plans to do any outdoor sale of items whatsoever. They have no problem with the exterior doors remaining closed while work is being done, and all activities concerning repairs are going to take place inside the building. That's not a problem from our client's point of view. And obviously no outdoor displays of sale items. Those would all be acceptable. This building has a history of being used for repair of mechanical items for an extended period of time. It was used to repair snow blowers, lawnmowers, those sorts of items. And in addition to that, it was used to repair pool-related items at various times. So for 20 or more years, ending in about 2010, 2016, excuse me, this building has been used as a repair shop, not automobiles, but as a repair shop. The proposed footprint of the building is not going to be expanded at all with this requested special use permit. The site has 14 outside parking spaces, and at least according to the staff's proposal, or staff's write-up, only 7 outdoor spaces were required, and there are going to be very few traffic issues associated with this special use permit. The 5 or 6 vehicles are worked on a daily basis, and there are 3 or 4 employees who will work some part-time, some full-time at the location. This is not a body shop. They don't do repairs on damaged or wrecked vehicles. They're mainly normal sorts of repairs for vehicles. They don't dismantle or remove engines at this location. And so it is that type of an auto repair business. And if the Planning Commission has some questions for myself or my client, we're here and ready to respond.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll now move on to public comment. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may speak at this time. I'll remind you that if you are in the Zoom meeting, you are welcome to raise your hand and speak on this topic, or you can give us a call at 517-349-1232, and our staff will be happy to put you through to us. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes, and if you would please state your name and address for the record at the beginning of your statement, we would appreciate that. So with that said, we will give everyone a moment to raise their hand or call in to the Planning Commission. I don't see any hands raised. Stephen, do we have anyone calling in?
No, sir.
Okay, we will go ahead and close public comment then. And we'll move on to Planning Commission discussion. Are there any Planning Commissioners wishing to speak on this topic? Commissioner Primo.
I'm wondering if you could describe your plan for disposing of removed auto fluids, oil, any other fluids that might be removed during the process, storage and removal.
So I guess, am I audible now? I hope so. Yes. So there's a 50-gallon drum where all of the oil products are kept, and they're removed by a separate company that comes monthly to remove those oil products. And there are similar methodologies for removing any other fluids from cars. But the 50-gallon drum for oil products is removed by a separate company on a monthly basis. And so that's the way that's taken care of.
Will those be stored indoors or out?
Indoor.
Okay, any other discussion? Commissioner McConnell.
I just had a very minor correction to something stated in the staff memo about streets and traffic. It used to be that Hamilton Road had multiple lanes. At the moment, it is just one lane each way, and there are some center turn lanes. But given the very low traffic impacts projected for this project, I don't see streets and traffic as a limitation. This seems to me in keeping with the historical use of the property and the intention of the district. So I plan to support it.
Commissioner Cordell.
Like Commissioner McConnell, I would tend to support this SUP. Sorry, did I hear that there would be oil changes done because of a mention of an oil drum?
Oil changes is not something my client specializes in or does on a regular basis. They don't compete with the oil change, fast oil change businesses, but occasionally oil is taken out, and that's an irregular occurrence, but I can't say that it won't ever occur.
Okay, thank you.
Other discussion? So I have a few concerns, seeing no other hands raised at the moment. And they relate specifically to the special use permit criteria that we are to base our decision on, specifically items 3 and 8. So the first being that the project is harmonious with the intended character of the general facility. Now I drove around here and I used to live on Hamilton over in this area, so I know a little bit about what that area is like. And I have always felt as though this building and that use I mean, when it was a repair shop previously for other things, sort of stuck out to me as not really. It's stuck out. Let's just say, and so as we sort of look at whether or not something is in keeping with the surrounding area, I have a bit of concern there, although I don't know that being specifically a car repair shop makes it any more more or less harmonious, I suppose, than what it had been previously used for. I also have some concerns relating to the noise, traffic, smoke, fumes, glare, and odors. There is a house a couple of doors down. It appears to be not in keeping with the land use map. The house doesn't, as that area has been marked for C2 commercial. But there is a neighborhood to the southwest that is not terribly far from the parcel in question as well. And so I'm interested to know, in addition to the questions that have already been answered, what, if any, odor mitigation strategy you have. This is a question for the applicant. What, if any, odor mitigation strategy, noise mitigation strategy, so on and so forth, that you have for operating this business?
I'd be happy to respond. Can I be heard now? I'm audible again. Thank you. It's not altogether clear for me when I'm talking whether I'm being heard or not. First, with regard to the to this building and that particular location, in the package of information that I provided to you, I give a history of the property use over the period from 1956, when the building was constructed, till now, and from 85 to 2000, the building was used for Midwest Power Equipment, which is now located on Jolly Road, and my client Jonathan Brown also is the owner of Midwest Power Equipment. And the focus of that business at that time was sales and service of all sorts of mowers, tractors, all of that sort of, all of those sorts of items. And in addition to that, from 2010 to 2016, Dietz Pool was there and repaired and serviced pumps for pools. So this building has a long history of being used for work that was very similar to what is being requested at this point in time, and probably preceding most of the residential areas that are closer. And in addition to that, the C2 zoning permits this type of use in that particular area. But going to the question that was asked, with regard to noise mitigation, my client intends to keep the doors closed when any service is being performed, and not to perform service on automobiles outside of the confines of the building itself. That certainly is going to decrease the possibility of noise. And just because of where that building is located, at least two sides of that building are contiguous to the backside of a strip mall area, and noise certainly isn't problematic with the backside of the strip mall area that's located there. And as far as fumes, they certainly haven't been a problem to date. And while my clients opened up their business in October of last year, they haven't had complaints about fumes or that being a problem. And they're going to keep closed oil drums, as I've said before. And so it hasn't been a problem to date.
Okay, thank you. One follow-up question. One of the conditions that you had mentioned your client was comfortable with related to not having partially dismantled or wrecked vehicles. do you intend to, okay, so the condition specifically talks about partially wrecked or partially dismantled vehicles. Do you plan to use the parking spaces in the front of the building as storage for vehicles that are being worked on? I ask this because I came by on a site visit on Sunday and noticed that of the 14 parking spaces, there were 11 cars in the parking lot. And the building was closed. There didn't appear to be anyone there. And so my concern is if you're going to be using that parking lot to take up as a storage location for vehicles that are being serviced, that it may not, customers may not be able to park there. Do you have any comments about that?
Well, yes, cars that are waiting to be serviced are going to be parked there. There's also 3 spaces inside the building for bays that cars are actually being worked on. But wrecked vehicles, in the sense of a car accident with a crumpled up front end of a car, that sort of work isn't being done by Auto Tech of Okemos. They just don't do that kind of. It's not a body shop in that sense, and they have not had a problem with parking at that location, because on a daily basis, 4 or 5 repairs is a typical day for their work, and so this is not a high volume shop, I guess.
Sure. I see Commissioner Cordell's hand.
Yeah, thank you. With the mention of the cars parked in front, do you do they make use of a key drop off that they could leave their key, like say Sunday evening, and then it can be worked upon the following day?
I should know the answer to that, and I don't. I'd be surprised if they don't have a key drop off, but I'm sorry, I'm not aware of that.
Okay, I was just wondering, I mean, I guess it makes sense that there might be some cars there in the evening. 11 seems kind of high for that, given the number of cars that you might be working on per day. But that seemed to answer one part of that question. The other question I had was, what are the hours of operation?
8 a.m. to 6 p.m. I believe that's in our package, but 8 a.m. to 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Commissioner Richards.
Yeah, I just want to say that I think this is a good use of the building. I would say that the concerns that have been raised, I think I don't see them being an issue. In terms of noise, the lawnmowers are a whole lot more noisy than most motor vehicles, so I don't see that as an issue. And prevailing winds there are basically out of the west, so if there happened to be an issue with occasionally with a fume, it's going basically east, which is commercial and not residential. So I think this is a good use of the property, reuse of the property.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Richards. Any other discussion? Okay, seeing no other discussion, we will go ahead and move on to our straw poll. So for those watching at home, straw poll is an opportunity for us to provide some direction to Peter as to the sense of the Planning Commission. This is not a hard and fast vote that will come at our next meeting, presumably. But we will go ahead and talk through how we plan on, whether we plan on supporting this special use permit or opposing it. So we will go ahead and get started with Commissioner McConnell.
Or
Commissioner Primo.
Or
Commissioner Cordell.
Support.
Commissioner Shrewsbury.
Support.
Commissioner Richards.
Or
Commissioner Clark. Commissioner Clark.
Support.
Thank you. Commissioner Trezise.
think we lost you.
Okay. And I am still on the fence, but I'm leaning towards supporting, but I don't think it'll matter much anyway. So it sounds like we are all in support of the resolution that will hope Peter will hopefully be drafting to support the project. So with that, we will go ahead and close this public hearing at 7:34. Okay, we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is unfinished business. We have none. Other business, we have none. Reports and announcements. Township Board update. We'll hand things over to Principal Planner Menser.
Hello again. So the board last met on July 21. I actually did not attend the meeting. It was the first time in a long time because there really were no planning related issues. So they talked about, they appointed a new environmental commissioner, ratified the firefighters contract, and worked on a NMOCA drain intergovernmental agreement, which I don't know anything about. Mark may know if anyone has specific questions. So they meet again on Thursday, August 6th. And on that agenda, you're going to see a lot of the items that the Planning Commission saw recently. So we have a couple different rezonings. We've got the Potter Street rezoning, the Hagedorn Road rezoning, the special use permit for Green Peak. And Mark, do you remember the last one? I'm forgetting. I'm blanking out.
We've got to back up a little bit, we got the public hearing on Walnut Hills for dangerous buildings in front of the board. The special use permit for the senior housing on Hannah, the special use permit for Green Peaks, and then we've got 3 rezonings: the Potter Street rezoning that the Planning Commission initiated, the Cho rezoning on Okemos Road there north of Raby, and then the Baptist Convention rezoning on Hagedorn.
Thank you.
We're going to be chock full of our items that we've weighed in on.
Yep. So thank you.
Okay, we'll open things up to any questions for Peter. I suggest you should ask. No, seeing none, we'll go down to liaison reports. Don't have anything to report from their other meeting. Commissioner Cordell.
Yes, I went to the corridor improvement, or went virtually to the corridor improvement authority as did the director. We told them that our agendas have been such that excuse me, we haven't been working lately on the form-based code. Sorry, but hope to return to that maybe late fall to wrap it up. There was just what I thought was kind of interesting. MDOT is anticipating milling and paving Grand River. And so there's some design changes, some opportunities such as crosswalks that can take place, street lights. This is what would take place from curb to curb, not the parkway or the sidewalk. But I think it's interesting because it ties into form-based code to some degree. Excuse me, I'm sorry, not the executive director, Ken Lane, economic director, updated them on your last planning commission meeting, which I was not in attendance.
Thank you.
That's all I had.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. I actually did have one other question, if I could ask either Peter or Ken to weigh in on. I know that I've been seeing some chatter on social media from folks asking about where we are in the village of Okemos redevelopment. I wondered if you might be able to provide some manner of update as to what's going on there.
I can handle that. Good evening, everyone. The project is delayed, as you can probably tell, due to COVID-19. The developers have had issues with their financing. And to really summarize, that type of development, which is sort of a mixed use, where the housing is not specific to a certain age group, for whatever reason, the funding has been put on hold from the lending institutions. So we've been meeting probably weekly with the developer, trying to figure out how we're going to move forward on that. And they recently got a good line or a lead on a new source of funding. So they're in the process of hopefully wrapping that up. And the plan is to have the buildings demolished, not only in Block 2, which is the bottoms up Ace Hardware area, but also in Block 1, which would be the Tuba Museum, former Tuba Museum, and the Rite Aid or music store that's sort of behind it. Have those demolished by the end of the year and start construction as soon as possible next year. They are asking for assistance from the township through use of the redevelopment fund that's set up through the township's EDC and township board. So we're anticipating that they're going to file an application to use some of that fund, but that has not been received as of yet. But they're not giving up. They're getting creative, and it's just it's a difficult time due to COVID-19. So we're hoping that things continue to move forward, and we've been having positive meetings with them.
Thank you. All right, anything else here? Commissioner McConnell.
Sure, just a quick liaison report from the Environmental Commission. EC has not met since the Planning Commission last met, but there has been some nice progress with some working groups. The Environmental Commission is really going to town with working groups these days, besides the PAH and the tree planting effort and some others. Most recently, responding to an opportunity to partner with the Tri-County Regional Planning Commission and Mid-MEAC, a local environmental advocacy group, to undertake a review of township ordinances around the topic of green building, green infrastructure. First sort of exploratory discussion was held last week with members of the Planning Department and Economic Development, and that seems like it's got some momentum, and that activity will be getting underway soon.
Thank you very much. Any other liaison reports? Commissioner Primo.
Question for Ken. Do we have an update on when they're anticipating the new farmers market will be usable?
August 25th, it's supposed to be finished, and I think they're scheduling the farmers market at that venue after that. So by late summer, early fall, the plan is to use that site for the farmers market.
Nice.
Excellent.
I think in the meantime, they're doing a reasonable job of utilizing the parking lot and making that work. I think that's been pretty effective. Go ahead, add a boy to whoever, or girl to whoever is sort of managing that process.
Yep. Thank you. Any other comments?
Well, as long as we got Economic Development Director Lane with us, I was reading in the quarterly report, a semi-annual report about some great news on Toys R Us site. And I was wondering if you might just share that quickly with us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. Klingman's Furniture from Grand Rapids has bought that building. And there was a lot of work that most of it preceded me. Was with the former Economic Development Director, Chris Buck, and the Township Manager, and Peter and Mark. That building, the former Toys R Us, has a lot of land use restrictions imposed by Home Depot. And they're basically designed to not have competition for Home Depot. So really limiting in terms of what types of uses can go in that space. So we had to, the team, township team and Klingman's had to persuade Home Depot to loosen some of their restrictions, which they did. And then the Klingman's lender asked them to be loosened a little bit more, which ultimately Home Depot agreed to. So it was a lot of work to make that a possibility, but ultimately it happened. Klingman purchased that building. I think May or June. And I'm hearing myself double, but anyways, they got their interior permits approved, so I know they're in there working now, and they're going to start working on the exterior soon, and their goal is to be open by September or October.
Excellent. Thank you. I did want to touch on one last thing. I know we're getting toward the end of our agenda here, which is I went back and took a look at our Planning Commission goals for 2020, and obviously a lot of what we had planned has been more difficult to achieve given our current set of circumstances and our inability to meet together in person. But we did have a couple of items that we had discussed wanting to take a look at as by way of review. And those included the mixed-use planning development ordinance and the sign ordinance, in addition to the work that we've already done on the form-based code. And I guess also complete a plan for review of the master plan, although I think that might be a bit of a stretch given our current time frame. I'd just like to get a sense of whether or not we would like to try these matters, or if we should just stick to, if the commission thinks we should just stick to our typical business. And I think maybe Peter, you might be able to help with some sense of what's coming down the pipe in terms of, are we going to be chock full of public hearings, or are we going to lighten up a little bit in the coming months? And then we could talk further about that for a moment.
The biggest thing coming your way is at the next meeting on August 10th, we'll have the public hearing for Silverleaf Plan Unit Development. That is the project stemming, and I know I spoiled it with my email on Friday, but project that came out of the Bennett Road rezoning. So it's 150 detached single-family homes on that property on the north side of Bennett, west of Hewlett. So we'll have that at the next one or two, or potentially more meetings. Typically it's two, because that would then go on to the township board for further discussion. So that's really the only public hearing right now that I'm aware of. We had things, I know I piped up a lot of public hearings kind of earlier in the spring, and that was at the time I was expecting Menards to come through, and that never, that project is on hold for at least the foreseeable future. So I don't have anything else. It's not that we don't have other work to do, but I don't have anything else in terms of public hearings coming your way that I am aware of right now.
So given that, what do we think? Would we like to try to dive into one of those other items a little bit further in the coming meetings, or perhaps have a work session? Don't all jump at once. Commissioner Richards.
Yeah, I have a question for staff of the those items. I think the signs and mixed-use PUD. Is there one that makes more sense to work on than others that maybe are a higher priority from the staff's vantage point, seeing projects coming in or issues out there that are maybe one or the other needs more attention or sooner than later?
I think both are equally challenging and equally potentially nebulous and complex. I don't necessarily want to pick. If I had to throw one out there where I think we get some easy wins, it would probably be the sign ordinance. I think the MUPUD ordinance is they're both, like I said, they're both big projects. But if you wanted, if we put a very kind of straightforward, maybe less controversial sign ordinance amendment. There are some easy wins there, in my opinion, and I can I can detail those. That by no means does that mean it's going to be an easy discussion, but I would pick that. But again, I'm just one person. It's certainly up to you guys.
Commissioner Cordial?
Well, we've kind of gone on record that we were going to move forward with the form-based code. The other thing I think of is once we get that into position, we really should address the mixed use ordinance. There are some things that developers are getting credit for amenities that in today's development, they're really not above and beyond, I believe, what they should be getting credit for as amenities. It may be difficult, but I think we need to do that. Secondly.
Okay. Peter?
If I could, and I would not look to the form-based code to address our MEPUD potential issues. So it would definitely establish a process for that particular block, but I do think that issues of that ordinance extend well beyond just that geographical area.
Anyone else care to share any thoughts on that proposal?
Personally, I would be more excited about the MUPUD than the sign ordinance as a priority.
Anyone else? Any thoughts?
I think that as we have time available, that we put one of them on the docket, deal with it, and move to the next one. If
Okay.
that's what we said our goals are, then let's honor that and move forward. And if we have the time to do it, let's do it.
Okay.
Seems
So it
simple.
sounds like we have marginally more excitement about the mixed use plan unit development ordinance than the sign ordinance from the Planning Commission. And we did sort of indicate that by suggesting in our goals too, by suggesting that it be the second one we tackled from our date ranges that we'd set up. So I guess I imagine that we'll be hearing quite a bit from members of the public at the next meeting. So we may not want to necessarily take this up at that time, given that that might be a long meeting. But Peter, would you be able or willing to provide us with the current version of the ordinance as it exists in our packet so that we can take a look through that? Or at least link to it, maybe to save some trees, save some space. And then we can take a look at that, review it, and then plan to talk about it at the following meeting on August 20-something.
24th.
24th, yes.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I have my own list that I've been keeping of, I guess I could call them gripes or just issues with the ordinance or ways that we could improve it. But I would definitely be looking to the Planning Commission to help fill that out. So any work we can do ahead of that meeting to identify some issues, and I'm happy to do as much legwork as I can to get that moving.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. All right, so we'll go ahead and plan on that for. Well, we'll talk about it a little bit briefly just to remind ourselves as an overview at the next meeting, and then tackle it more fully on the 24th. Anything else? Sorry, I know I took a little diversion there. All right, we'll move on to item number 10 on the agenda, project updates. We have none, no new applications, no new site plans, no new site plans approved. So finally, we will land on our final opportunity for public remarks. Once again, we'll remind folks that if you are in the Zoom meeting, you're welcome to raise your hand and be recognized for public remarks. This can be on any topic. You're also welcome to give us a call at 517-349-1232, and our staff will put you through to us. Public remarks are 3 minutes in length, and this time can be on any topic. We ask that you please identify yourself with your name and address at the beginning of your remarks. So with that, we will open public remarks and give everyone a moment to reach out to us.
We're not hearing any calls, sir.
All righty. And I don't see any hands raised. So with that, we will close public remarks and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Primo. Do we have a second? Seconded by Commissioner Shrewsbury. All in favor of adjournment, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And we stand adjourned at 7:54. Thank you all. Good to see you as always.
Yep. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
Take care, Peter.
Thank you, you too.
Bye-bye.
Good night.